Peace, y'all. Have a couple quick corrections to make before we start this week's episode. I referred to our guest this week as an assistant professor at Kennesaw State University when she's an associate professor at Kennesaw State University. That's my bad. Also, we talked about Django Unchained, and I mentioned the Rick Ross song The Devil Is a Lie when I was talking about 100 Black Coffins. Once again, my bad, my fault. Love y'all. Enjoy. What's good, y'all? My name is Dylan Green, and this is Real Notes, a space dedicated to blurring the cultural and artistic lines between rap and film. I'm here to chop it up with everyone from rappers and producers to journalists and video directors about their relationship to movies and how, if at all, film inspires their craft. My guest this week is Regina N. Bradley, a professor, author, and Southern hip-hop scholar from Albany, Georgia. We spoke about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the new Mortal Kombat movie, her love for all things martial arts, her relationship with the music of OutKast, their position as the blueprint for modern Southern rap, and excerpts from her latest book, Chronicling Stankonia, The Rise of the Hip-Hop South, available now via UNC Press. Come fuck with us. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back. This is, I think, what's this going to be? Number 12? Yeah, this is number 12. Real Notes number 12. My name is Dylan, CineMasai. I got a lot of names. Those are just two of them. Every guest on my show is special, but we got somebody like incredibly crazy fucking special on the show this week. She's an assistant professor of English and African diaspora studies at Kennesaw State. She's an alumna of the Nasir Jones Hip Hop Fellowship Program at Harvard. She has a bachelor's in English, a master's in African American and African diaspora studies, and a PhD in African American literature. She's the author of the fantastic book, Chronicling Stankonia, The Rise of the Hip Hop South. And she's got this upcoming novel called Reluctant Ancestors. Like, we could just sit here and do the accolade shit all day, but we got Professor Regina Bradley in the place to be. So hi, Gina. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
No, don't do that. We got shit to do. Okay. we got shit to do today. We ain't trying to go down the accolade thing. That shit is so weird.
Yeah.
Oh. I never get used to that. You would think that I'm used to that by now, but I'm not. How you, Dylan? It's so good to see your face. I haven't seen you since Tulsa.
Yeah, it's been a whole year. And like you've been busy. So like we had to really roll this out for you. Like this is you like yeah, like I already told you, but this book is incredible. Like it really gave me so much perspective on all of this, just like on everything. But like yeah, we're going to get into all of that, but I want to start this off the way I start off every conversation with everybody. What's the first movie experience you can remember?
First movie experience that I can remember, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, wow.
That's my very first, that's the one I can remember. Oh, it's either Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I remember they did like a little cartoon before they actually did the, yeah, so there was that. So that's the most memorable one that I can think of. And I still love Who Framed Roger Rabbit, believe it or not.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit is an incredible movie. Like
it's almost like perfection, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was my jam. That's still my jam.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those movies that like you really appreciate just for like how beautiful the animation is. And then you get older and then you just realize
you appreciate all the dirty jokes. You're
right.
Like, oh. Yeah, but I think my first I thought I was grown because I got to go to the movies at night by myself movie was one of I'm pretty sure it was How to Make an American Quilt.
I don't know what that is.
It was just an opportunity for me and my friend to go to the movie when it was night out by ourselves. So we thought we were hella grown. I was like 11. I was like, can we go to this movie? What time the movie start? 7. And they were like, yeah, okay. And you couldn't tell me shit. I was like, I am big grown. I have multiple movie moments. I'm sorry. I have a lot of movie moments that I can share.
Oh, it's all good. I want to hear as many as you're willing to tell me. Like,
okay, I got two more. So went to go see Jurassic Park in theaters. Was not ready for the T-Rex. The whole shaking of the water thing. I wasn't ready for that. And then another movie I remember going to see is Blade. with my dad. My dad used to take me on date nights. So like we would go watch the movie or go play miniature golf or whatever. But like, you know, movie date nights were our thing. So we went to go see Blade. And I remember my dad was like praying through the whole movie.
Damn.
he was a pastor, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, Dad, right. It's really necessary, you know what I mean? But how you gonna pray over Blade and then go take me to see Kings of Comedy?
Oh, come on, son. Not even. Was that on the same night or was that on a different night?
No, this was like later. Okay. I just remember my dad was crying, and then like of all things, he was crying laughing at Bernie Mac. I'm like, Dad, how you gonna be saved? And you okay, but yeah. Oh yeah, I always good times with movies.
Bernie Mac did say praise God, so you know it is what it is.
yeah. I just remember he was crying laughing, I was crying laughing, and I'm like, wait a minute, Daddy, you supposed to be a preacher man. Oh. I was like, Daddy, how you gonna be a preacher man and you over here laughing like this to Bernie Mac? Like I don't understand. It was great. It was great. My dad had great taste in movies, man. We went to go see everything. We went to go see all the first Blade. That was just dope. Like being able to see that in theaters, that was just super cool. We also walked out on movies that we didn't like. Like we went, I mean, you know, we walked out on Van Helsing.
Wow, the Hugh Jackman joint? Wow, that's a movie.
Yeah, man, because it was like, it wasn't even my dad being super religious. It was just like, it was such a slow, we were like, what? Yeah, so that was hilarious. Is you know.
That is hilarious. I mean, like I saw that, I remember I saw that at, there was this theater in my hometown that's now a performance space. It used to be like a really old movie theater. And I saw it with like two of my homies at the time. And like the theater hadn't really been renovated yet, so it was like just like really dirty. So all I remember is like sitting in a dirty seat watching Hugh Jackman. He turned into a werewolf and then bit Dracula at the end of it. That's the only part of the movie I remember. I forgot everything else.
It's like, such a slow burn. I was like, Daddy, are you bored? He was like, yeah, I'm bored. You ready to go? Yeah, let's go get something to eat. But it's like, I mean, like, I think the one thing that I miss about like old school going to the movies was the hunter was like the, you know, you had to go and hunt for seats. So it was like, all right, we need two of y'all to go and save seats. You know what I'm saying? Because you didn't have the RSVP now. You couldn't be like, these are our seats. And
right.
No, it was like, you know, it was like the Hunger Games in that motherfucker. It was like, okay, we need somebody to volunteer as tribute. Because you never wanted to be in the front seats. You always, you know.
Yeah, no, right in the middle.
In the back. Like my favorite place is all the like either like almost towards the back or all the way in the back. I need the whole screen. Like I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was a whole, you know, process.
Yeah, I like the middle. I've always liked the middle the most. Like either like the middle or like the middle back. Like
yeah, I feel that. I like that. But I mean, like, well, before the Pangea. This is, you know, before the Pangea. But I mean, like, how much different would the game be for like Marvel movies if you couldn't reserve seats? Like you hear about folks on like Media Takeout, World Star,
right?
They shit and throw hands because they lost seat.
So yeah, show up with the barbecue and the tinfoil, like people were about to do for Black Panther and shit. Yeah.
Shit, Black Panther too. I'm ready. Like I'm already planning my outfit for the Friday night, for the Saturday night. Like you have to have different outfits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So shit, I'm ready. That is probably one of the most powerful experiences that I've ever had, is going to watch Black Panther on opening night. That was just, it was all the Black folks who was like, we see each other, we clean, you know what I'm saying? And meanwhile, white folks was like, do we laugh? Can we laugh? Like, you don't even know what's going on. You don't even appreciate the underlying cultural subtleties of a Ryan Coogler.
Nah, not the man who made Fruitvale Station. I saw the movie with I saw Black Panther with I saw it with like at least two people. It was Spence and Steve. Spencer's Black, Steve is white. Most of us are Black because there were more people there, but like, you know, it just meant something different. It just meant something different to me and Spence. Maybe Solomon was there too. Shout out to Spence and Solomon if they're listening. I can't remember, but like either way, like that was, you know, like that was a moment, and you could tell who the people were that it like really meant something to, because like everybody liked it, but like you just like look around and people are.
I I was
Like
literally walking out the theater crying. Like I was just like, this was some, and then kind of knowing now what we didn't know then with what was going on with Chadwick Boseman. Like it just hit
Right.
totally. It just hit. Like I haven't been able to watch it since he passed, but it's like really kind of thinking about. I mean, like he was legit like talking victory over death. He wasn't just being T'Challa. He was talking about his own life and being able to do that. Yeah, it was amazing. Like the scene with him and his dad on the ancestor plane always takes me out because I think about my own dad. I lost my own dad at 20. You know what I mean? Unexpectedly. So it's like,
right.
I ain't ready. Every time I watched it, my husband was like, "You've seen this how many times?" I'm like, shh.
That shit was hard to watch because like I saw it a bunch when it first came out, but like that was hard to watch. Like because like as soon as I finished, as soon as I found out that he passed, like I let my girl know, like, yo, like I gotta go watch this movie real quick. Like I needed to sit with it, and like just and like considering that he had been fighting cancer from I think for like 3 years, like from like right before that up until the Five Bloods. Like he like really soldiered through and told no one. Like that's crazy to me that he managed to like that's legendary shit.
I mean, like it was just I don't know what else to say about Chadwick Boseman. He was special. That was because I'd be like, I'm ready to quit with a stomach ache. I'm ready to quit with allergies.
Right.
I mean, for him to be able to go through that and still be such a light in the world, you know what I'm saying, is something very commendable. But it's like, so I just can't watch his movies. It puts me in a place, you know what I'm saying? But I'm going,
you just need time.
I need a little time. I need a little time. It's gonna be cool though.
You know what's the sad part though? Like who else is gonna play all our historical figures?
Yo, like I made a joke. I made a joke a couple years ago before I really was taking Chadwick seriously. It was like, he needs one more role and he'll have all 5 Infinity Stones for major Black figures.
Yeah.
He played Jackie Robinson. He's played James Brown. He played, T'Challa is fiction, but we don't care. That's us right there. T'Challa, you know what I'm saying? Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing he only needed one more. He only needed one more major biopic.
Was his character from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom a real person, or was that just a character?
I think it was just a character, but I mean, like, okay. I know that August Wilson did a lot of research for his Century Cycle stuff. So I mean, like, Ma Rainey is real,
Right? Yeah.
I mean, but it's just wow.
Yeah. It still doesn't feel real. Like when you brought it up, like I forgot.
It feels like it hasn't only been a year. Like it feels longer than that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it still hasn't been a year.
Like,
because he died in August 2020, right? Like he died August of last year, and we're not even crazy.
Yeah. Like I forgot. I forgot until you told me. Like I was almost like, yeah, he's like still around, but he's not still around. Like it just blew my mind. Wow. So I feel like we've kind of already been over this, but I guess I'll ask again. Like, do you have a specific movie that kind of made you fall in love with the idea of movies?
Ooh. Are we talking live action? Because I have different answers.
Anything, like whichever one first comes to mind.
Okay. Well, I ain't gonna lie. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Lion King. That's my shit.
That's the first movie I ever saw. I feel it.
Oh, snooker. That's my shit. I know it. You can put it on whatever part of the movie. I'll be able to do it verbatim. Like for real. It's like that's my jam. Live. I don't know. I gotta think about it because I love so many movies. Man, I'm gonna go. Okay, so it was a movie I shouldn't have watched because I was too young to watch it. But you know how kids do, man. Sometimes we get lucky. Mm-hmm. So my papa was a huge martial arts fan, right? So before church, we would watch Bloodsport.
Classic.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Bloodsport is my jam too, man. Like that's, it's Bloodsport was it. I was just like that made me a permanent action movie fan. Like I was like, oh my god, right? Terminator 2 also comes to mind. T2 Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a jam. So I've been a blurred for a long time. I don't know if I
Nah, you're among family right now. Yeah, like the one part of Bloodsport I remember more than any other is I think it's Bloodsport, the part where he's like doing the split in front of like the in front of the skyline. That shit is.
I can't even. I'm scary. I'm scary. What if I, move wrong or the wind blow me wrong, and then you out here on a full out split? Like you can't go nowhere.
On an edge, no less. Like not even like on like secure ground. He's like just like on the edge. Like
yeah, that was a great shot though. Like that was a great shot of the. Yeah, that was dope though. That was dope.
Yeah, I want to know who thought of that, because like I don't think Van Damme thought of that. Somebody was like, nah, you got to go do that. Like who did that?
I don't know, man, but I knew for a long time Jean-Claude Van Damme was like my favorite actor after Bloodsport. I was like, Jean-Claude Van Damme could do no wrong. Well,
he has it. I didn't mean to cut you off. What'd you say?
That was all good. I was like, Jean-Claude Van Damme could do no wrong. You know what I mean? I was like, I loved him in Double Dragon. I loved him in Street Fighter, horrible ass Street Fighter. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? I didn't care. But it all started with Bloodsport. Bloodsport is still my shit. I will still watch it. If I see it on TV, I'm like, all right, I need to stop everything I'm doing and watch Frank Dukes.
No, that's the movie, honestly. And like you just reminded me of Street Fighter. He was Guile in Street Fighter, right?
Yeah, he was Guile in Street Fighter. And Raul Julia I think that was his last movie.
That was his very last movie. Yep.
He was great in that. I mean, like it was a horrible ass movie, but I was gaming at the time, so it was like, of course I'm gonna go see Street Fighter too.
Did you ever get the chance to play the like the Street Fighter, the movie, the game that was basically just like a bootleg Mortal Kombat?
Yeah,
that shit was ass. I don't even know how I played it, but that shit was ass.
And I was like, okay. I mean, like it was kind of like, when I first watched the first Mortal Kombat, and I was like, I love it because I love the Mortal Kombat games. And then like the remake came out, and I'm like, shit, this is for the younger folks, because I mean, like the level of violence was more graphic, but I was like, it was cool. Like the effects were cool. I was like, where's the tournament at?
I was looking forward to that too, honestly. Like I really like the new Mortal Kombat, but it would have been nice to have like an actual tournament. But like, like there was a lot of there were a lot more Easter eggs in it, and seeing Reptile seeing Reptile portrayed so well. I wish he was in the movie more.
And Sub-Zero.
And
I really enjoyed stuff like that. Was, I mean, like I'm really thankful that we have like advanced in like CGI and special movie effects. But I mean, like it's still dope. I still love Robin Shou. You know what I'm saying? Is Liu Kang. He's still gonna be the guy. You know what I'm saying? So there's
right. Before we move on, my favorite part of the new movie was like Kano and the new guy whose name I don't remember. Like they were like training, and the new guy kept doing the leg sweep like everyone always does in the game, and then Kano's like, damn, is that the only move you know? Like they knew exactly what the fuck they were doing with that shit.
Yeah, no, I mean I thought it was, what's dude with the hat?
Kun Lao.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, like, because I saw the hat and I was like, oh shit, like I think that was like maybe like one of the last times I actually for real was invested in playing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
It's like, do the hat thing.
And he did it, and then he dragged him over. I was like, because like, that was the one I wanted to. And then he said flawless victory. I was like, this movie is made for me, son. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat at the height of its glory in like the mid 1990s. You know what I mean? You were just like, yeah, this is my movie. Like, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be no, Citizen Kane and no shit like that. I mean,
yeah, or even like Game of Thrones. Like I wasn't going in expecting like them talking about like the complicated politics of Earthrealm. Like fuck it, I just want to see people get their heads blown up. Like nah, like come on.
Like you're gonna get this politicization, and then we're gonna give you one or two fight scenes. That's it. I was like, what? Yeah, that was pretty dope. I mean, like if they do the origin story, like I know there's rumor, street committees like they might do an origin story for Sub-Zero. I'm all in. I'm all in for that shit. That's dope.
Yeah, they got him signed up for I think like 4 more movies or something like that. So I'm
they're really trying to like extend, like trying to make it like a remake of the franchise. Oh, that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm still gonna watch. I'm gonna watch that shit. I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah, I'm all about it, especially if I could watch it. Like, I mean, like that's one movie I wanted to see in the theater. I'm so mad I couldn't see that in the theater. That and King Kong and Godzilla. Like, I'm so mad that I had to watch that.
I didn't know what the fuck was going on with Kong versus Godzilla, but I was like, you know what? I'm here for this.
Yeah, that shit made no type of sense. Like,
it was like two different movies happening at the same time. It was like, okay, so we have like, well, how are we gonna overlap this? You know what I mean? You got the whole Godzilla thing going on. You got the whole Kong thing going on.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
and much love to Brian Tyree Henry and Millie Bobby Brown. But
I'm ready for him in the Eternals.
Me too. Like to see him do like a full-blown action movie is gonna be a lot of fun. But like his shit in Kong and Godzilla, like their whole plot line made like it didn't matter. Like they were only there to explain plot elements to people. Like it's like they're the ones who find Mecha Godzilla, and like as soon as I saw them look up and one of them said it, I was like, oh, they're just here to just like let us know. I mean, like, cool, Mecha Godzilla's here, but like why are they here otherwise? Like they're just like plot devices. Like come on, like y'all didn't even try. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, but I'm glad he's getting that Marvel check though. So I'm hoping that
same.
Be, Brian Tyree Henry is severely underappreciated. I can't wait to see him in Atlanta. Hopefully they will finish filming soon. And I know this is about movies, but I have to ask you because like as a kid, martial arts was like my shit. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't do them. Like I couldn't do them because my grandparents was like, that ain't ladylike, whatever the fuck that means. But martial arts films was my shit, right? So Bruce Lee, I love Bruce Lee, like Enter the Dragon and Dragon, the Bruce Lee story just sit in a particular place in my heart. But how did you feel about Warrior?
I still haven't watched it.
Oh, no,
I've seen. Hang on,
dude.
I saw one episode. People have been screaming at me to watch Warrior.
God.
I really
watch it before it comes back because it's coming back. Thank God, it's coming back. But you need to see this shit. You need to.
Yeah,
it's fire. It is so fire.
Yeah. I'm like I saw an episode and I was like, I'm on this. I'm on this as soon as I have time. Like I'm watching like 3 other shows right now. I gotta finish those. Like I barely even have time to like look at my eyelids when I close them. So like it's just. But for anyone listening who's not aware, like talk about Warrior because like that's a show that like people have been telling me about, but like put people on real quick.
Man, all right. So Peep Game. So this was a TV show that Bruce Lee was conceptualizing for him to star in because if you're at all familiar with Bruce Lee's story, he talks about how he was often overlooked or he was typecast in Hollywood or whatever, and he was like, I want to do me. You know what I mean? So Warrior was kind of like from is a brainchild of his, and his daughter brought it to life, so to speak. So it's basically talking about Chinese gang wars in San Francisco, like early 20th century, like right after industrialism. And I mean, like it doesn't shy away from nothing, right? Like you have all of the offensive stereotypical language in it, and you have the fight scenes in it. But I think one of the most amazing things about that show is that the code switching that happens, so to speak. Like it's kind of like how we see Chinese immigrants, so to speak, versus how they actually speak. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, you kind of see that, like that transition. It's amazing. It's amazing how they did it. It was like, it sounds like plain English to us, right? Because it's recorded in English, but then it's like when they're speaking their native languages, it's even better. But it's like you also see like if you can't speak their native languages, because English is them speaking Chinese. Like that's the thing that folks don't get.
Right.
But then they speak this I hate to say it like this, but broken, I'm using air quotes here, folks. Like broken English to speak to native English speakers, and then like they go back to their native. It's amazing. Like you have to go see this shit. Just it's great. It's great. I mean, like, it challenges a lot of ideas about race and class, and I think putting that in conversation with what's going on with the increasing violence against Asian communities as of late. It's not like all of this shit just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like it's historical. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you get a chance, it's all the things. Like I binge watched that thing in like 2 days.
Wow. No, I'm on it. That sounds that sounds like everything I want to see right now. And like And like it's always crazy to see how shows like that just kind of come full circle and like inform moments like right when they're like coming out and shit. Like
Mhm.
it's really like it gets insightful, but it's also kind of scary. Like it's not exactly the same, but like right when the pandemic was like really starting to get crazy,
Mhm.
I started watching The Strain, the FX show with like the
No, I
vampire
couldn't.
people.
Okay, I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
Like it was really like looking in a mirror, like just like watching how people couldn't like watching how it spread and watching people not take it seriously. I was like, wow, like it's really like they saw into the future because the shit's from like 2013. Shit's almost 10
Yeah.
years old. And like
Yeah.
it really was like it was happening right now. So like
Mhm.
yeah, it's like and I still haven't finished it. Like, but like it was such a head bust just like watching that shit happen the way it did. And like I want to finish it at some point, but like I just needed to step away. Like, all right, this is a little too real right now. Even with the vampires, and like now there's like a cabal of like vampires who like don't like the other ones, and they like have it's getting complicated. So I just need to like give my brain a break for a second. Like,
I love it. I love it.
yeah. So so to transition just a bit, when did you like? So like when did you like? Or let me rephrase that.
Mhm.
So when you start so like when you start kind of like recognizing film as film and you kind of have this base already, like when did you first start falling in love with music?
Ooh, way before that.
I thought so. I thought
um,
so.
I first fell in love with music for real when I was 5 and I heard Michael Jackson's Bad album.
Good start.
Yeah, it was, because I was part of that generation where, on Saturday nights, my folks turned off the TV and put on the radio station or just put on albums and we just laughed and danced and listened to music all night. You know what I'm saying? So, but the Michael Jackson Bad album, and I remember, shout out to my cousin Amber, you know what I'm saying? We would have these dance battles, you know what I'm saying? Like, who's bad?
Ah.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, there was that, and bring my dad back into the mix. My dad and my stepdad. My dad was a huge music fan. He was in the Navy, so he was a military dude. You know what I mean? So he was exposed to a little bit of everything. So of course he exposed his daughter to a little bit of everything. So I'm talking about like Isley Brothers would be on, and then War would come on, and then Kraftwerk would come on. You know what I'm saying? I'm like Kraftwerk, like like Kraftwerk would come on. You know what I mean? And my dad was like, if it's good music, it's good music. You know what I'm saying? So I really came to appreciate that. And then being a '90s baby, so to speak, I went through my little rock phase a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So it was that. But what was interesting though was like folks were like, oh, she's a hip hop scholar, but I don't feel like I really got into hip hop like that until college. To be honest with you, I was an R&B fan before that. I mean, I'm still an R&B fan, but I mean, like, when I looked at my CD book, you know what I mean? Like the majority of the stuff in there was R&B, and I was like, oh, I mean, like, of course you had like, of course I had the OutKast there, and, I had them in there, but that wasn't where I was an R&B soul in the hip hop world.
Right. Nah, and that's cool. Like, because like for me growing up, like I kind of followed like a similar trajectory. Like I've like really been into rap since I was about 9. When I
Okay.
first got when I first got Bow Wow's Beware a Dog. But like my father was also my father's 70. He just turned 76. So he's
Oh,
like
okay.
he's from like he's like very old school. So like he kind of
Yeah.
like he put me on to a lot of like doo-wop and R&B, but
Yeah.
he also really loved like everything modern. Like he was like always he was just on everything. Like he played a lot of Eric Benet, a lot of Brandy, a lot of Destiny's Child. Like he like
Mhm.
so it was just like a really like a big melange of influences from him. And then he would play a little bit of rock here and there, but my mom was really the one who was like really into like Aerosmith, and like
Oh
Sting isn't
yeah,
really.
Queen and all them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Sting isn't really rock, but my mom loved the album Brand New
I
Day by
think I
Sting.
think that like Sting is low key Black people's favorite. Because I mean, like, but Sting is dope though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is Sting slap? But it's and like I would laugh at my dad trying to do hip hop. Like my dad loved hip hop too. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
my dad really liked Money Ain't a Thing. That was his jam. You know what I'm saying? Like
Wow.
he would just be walking around the house singing that. But I mean, like my first for real memory of my dad listening to hip hop was MC Hammer's "You Can't Touch This," and him trying to do the the really fast part that Hammer does. from all around the world, from London to the Bay. Yeah, he tried to do it. He would like keep repeating it to learn it. And I was just like, okay, Dad. But yeah, that was his jam. You can't touch it.
That's hilarious. You know what my dad's favorite rap song ever is?
What?
Fucking OutKast, So Fresh, So Clean. He sings that shit all the time. Like it should come on the radio. Like you just hear him sing. Like he'll just walk around the house and like sing it. It's the cutest thing. Like he's like OutKast and Tupac are probably his two favorites. Like,
oh, I love that. Oh
yeah. And he was a grown man when rap first started. So like he's told me so many stories about like being there to see it start. Like I interviewed him. I interviewed him about it a couple of years ago for Father's Day, and like the story
is that the one that you posted when you were talking to your dad about music? I read that.
Yeah. Like the story that always gets me is the one where he's just like in the Bronx and he just sees people breakdancing on the cardboard, and he went to his friend and was like, "Yo, they're having seizures down there. Like somebody go help them." And it's like, nah, like they're breakdancing, Marion. Like that's what that is. And he's like, "Oh, okay." Like it's. Yeah, so like growing up and him having that perspective and giving it to me is just like the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, man. Same with my dad, man. I'm my dad passed in 2004.
Right.
But I mean, like I really would give anything to know, say kind of see him and talk to him about, OutKast and the music, because he was a huge funk fan. So it was like it made sense. I was like, he was like his favorite band was Cameo and SOS. So it was like, he also liked the Gap Band, but it was just like, thinking about how people in the South, particularly Southern artists, would sample funk, you know what I'm saying? And soul was like, oh, no brainer. You know what I mean? So shout out to our dads, man. Our dads with the good music taste. You know what I'm saying?
For real. that shit is impeccable for real. Like, so like as you get older and you start, like developing your taste for both music and film, like was there like do you remember the time when you first consciously linked film and music together in your head? Like, was there a time?
Wait, an Exhale soundtrack.
What about that did it for you?
Babyface has been one of my favorite artists since the beginning of time. I just, the way it was perfection. Wait and Exhale soundtrack is perfection. You know what I'm saying? And then when at one point in time, it was like folks more excited about the soundtrack than they were about the film. They're like, oh, this movie is coming out. Yeah, that's cool. But who's on the soundtrack though? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's definitely Waiting to Exhale. I was just like, this is kind of amazing. I think the first soundtrack that I bought, the first film soundtrack that I bought was probably Sunset Park.
I haven't seen Sunset Park, so I don't think I know.
Yeah, I mean, like it was Sunset Park, so like Tupac was on there, Quad City DJs was on there. I mean, it was a time. And then again, I thought I was kind of grown because I bought it, and it had the parental advisory sticker on it.
Ooh.
So I thought I was doing big things. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. But I mean, like, in terms of a favorite that I had when I was a teenager, the Best Man soundtrack was amazing. The Wood soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah, wow. Both those soundtracks are great now that I think about it. Jesus.
Yeah, those were amazing. And then what we talking about today. I know we're gonna have to talk about this. I don't think that Idlewild is an album.
Ooh, I was gonna ask you about this later, but yeah, I'm glad you brought it up now. Like, why don't so tell me about that. Why don't you think it's an album? Tell me why.
Like, it's a hybrid, man. It because you have sound clips from the movie on it. You have one or two new songs on there, like Mighty O and Morris Brown, and I think Idlewild Blue, which is probably one of the only songs that's directly connected to the film. You know what I'm saying? So,
and like not even really at that point too. Like it's only like,
not
like
even at that point. It's like you know what I mean? So there's that, you know what I'm saying? So I felt like it was like a little, I don't know, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about OutKast albums, I don't necessarily include Idlewild.
See, that's not fair. I like
you have to I'm coming from though. It's like if you listen to the joint, I mean, like you get a whole lot of sound bites, like a whole lot of sound bites. I'm like, and if you think about Idlewild, it was supposed to be music videos for Speaker Box and A Love Below.
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, like the songs that are on there, I like them, you know what I mean? But if I put them in conversation with the rest of their discography, I'm kind of like,
I
I'm
get
sorry,
it.
man, it's true.
I get it, but like, just like considering how much I love the movie and like how
Oh, I love
great,
the movie. I love the
yeah,
movie. I have a story
like
about that too.
so like honestly, like before we even get back into that, yeah, like tell me about your first experience with Idlewild, because I knew this was gonna come up because I know we both love this movie so much. Like talk to me about your first time with this shit.
Okay, so it was 2006. I had just graduated from the unsinkable Albany State. I was starting my master's program in Indiana. And this was like August, September, I want to say, of 06. And I get there and it's like, I'm expecting the movie theater to have the Idlewild movie. I'm like, okay, so so I get there and I get to the little movie theater, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, are y'all showing Idlewild? And they were like, what's that? And I'm like, what? What do you mean, what's that? Idlewild, the OutKast movie. And they were like, oh no, we're not doing that, right? So this is 2006. So no, there's no Idlewild. And I'm like, okay, I have to go to Indianapolis. I had never been to Indianapolis before that. You know what I mean? So I have to like drive to this brand new city. GPS was just starting to pop off to the point where my friend Quentin Blanton, shout out to Q, was like, I have this new thing called GPS. And we're like, what the fuck is that? And they were like, because before that, you know what I'm saying? I'm part of the MapQuest generation.
I was about to say, y'all niggas at MapQuest.
Yeah, MapQuest, shit. The MapQuest generation. So it was like, oh, all right, then. So like he has this very old school GPS that's like, you have to turn here, whatever. So he has us running all over Indianapolis, right? We finally find a theater that is playing Idlewild. We haul ass to the ticket counter because the movie started at 7. It's like 7:10, 7:15. So I'm like, okay, previews. We should be good. We get there and they were like, oh, we just closed the doors. I was like, what? Oh, I was so mad. So my first time watching Idlewild was actually on bootleg.
Wow. So before you tell me about that, how far away was Indianapolis from where you were? Because like that's a trip.
Yeah,
for a movie, that's a trip. Yeah. But it's worth it, like you like really go the distance for shit like that. I was
committed because at the time, I mean, Idlewild was a piece of home for me. Like I'm this Southern Black girl that's in the Midwest. And Bloomington is really kind of just stripping away all my comfort, so to speak. You know what I mean? They ain't had no goddamn Popeyes. They didn't have no urban radio stations. It was like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, y'all ain't even playing this movie. Like, come on, something got to give. Like, what? So being able to, I mean, like, it's a memory now that we still laugh about, like being able to like go all over Indianapolis with my now husband, Roy, and our friend Quentin, following his goddamn GPS that didn't know where the fuck it was going. Like we were like, this is not where we're supposed to be. Like one time we ended up in a parking lot. I'm like, this is not, what movie theater do you see, sir? So I mean, yes, it was fun, but yeah, Idlewild in Indiana, they are always connected in my head for the rest of my life.
That's incredible. So talk to me about actually watching the movie for the first time on bootleg and like how you like just like how did you feel about the movie when you first saw it?
I mean, the whole time I was like, the whole time. I loved it. The very first time I watched it, I was like, you know what, this was worth the wait. I was like, the GPS fiasco was worth it. I mean, like the music took me back to a certain place. You know what I'm saying? I was a sophomore when Speaker Box and Love Below came out at Albany State, and it was also our centennial homecoming. So it was like the 100-year anniversary. When no sleep had by nobody that week, right? And I'm like, the only thing that you heard was Speaker Box and the Love Below that people were bumping. You know what I'm saying? So it took me, I mean, like it was a nostalgic kind of thing for me. And then I just thought it was just really, I thought it was well done. Like well done in the sense that, I enjoyed it. I was engaged in it. Like, you know what I'm saying? But just kind of just watching it and being like, yo, I mean, like there's, I know we're going to talk about this, but there was a couple of scenes. I was like, what the fuck is this? But I loved it. I watched it back to back the first time I watched it. I watched it one time and then I was like, oh, yep, run it back. Round 2.
Damn. Yeah. Wow. I saw it in the theater when like it first came out. I forget what year was it again? Was it
2006. Yeah, so
2006. I was just starting high school when I saw it with my dad and his best friend at the time, Julio. Rest in peace to Julio. And like I knew like I was obsessed with OutKast and particularly Speaker Box of Love Below at that point. So like I was the kid growing up who would like watch the movie trailers over and over and over again. So like I had already memorized the last song, the one with Andre at the piano. I forget what it's called now, but yeah, like I like knew all the words at the end, and like they're just looking at me like, the fuck, like how do you already know this? Like we're just seeing the movie for the first time. Like I'm like I've really been looking forward to this, y'all. Like you don't understand. and like watching it recently, it's still like to this day it's one of my favorite movies ever, and like it really just like connected with me. But like I didn't really think about the fact that like it's a jukebox musical. Like I never put that, because like I always think about those in like the context of like of like a stage play, like a stage musical, but like it really is, you know, something on the level of like Mamma Mia or like that Billy Joel shit, Moving Out. Like it's just, I can't really think of any other like black jukebox musical like that. You know, like they really like made it, and like they made it like cool and anachronistic, and like the whole like it like, you know, like it's the Depression, but they're playing rap and they're kind of incorporating the jazz. Like at that time, I was like, wow, like I've never seen no shit like this before, and it just really hit me in my heart. Like
yeah, I mean, like, you know, I'm not expecting them to be like, oh, this was Oscar worthy. I mean, like, I felt like it was a love letter to fans, like diehard fans. You know what I'm saying?
definitely.
We're still doing this thing. But I like that idea of like a jukebox, you know, kind of musical. I mean, it made me think about scenes from The Color Purple. You know what I mean? When Suge is singing, you know, at the juke joint. You know, it also made me think about, in some instances, it made me think about the movie Harlem, the Lawrence Fishburne movie Harlem. Like some like the gangster aspects of it, you know what I mean? But I also think it was cool when I was researching for my book. What I didn't realize was that Idlewild was initially a resort for rich Black folks in Michigan.
See, I'm happy you brought, because I didn't know that until I read your book either. I didn't know Idlewild was like a real place.
Yeah, I was
That's
like,
crazy.
Oh, think about Idlewild. I mean, like if you put the words, it was like Idlewild. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like when folks think about the Boondocks. Like it's not a real place. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Yeah.
to be able to kind of see that, I was like, oh, this is dope. And then again, it kind of just shows the genius of OutKast to be able to take a real place, because they did this shit with ATLians. They took a real place,
Right.
this Atlanta, made it Atlantis, and moved to the coast where Savannah is supposed to be. You know what I mean? So I mean, like it was light work to take Idlewild, which was in Michigan, and be like, fuck that, we're bringing it south to Georgia, and play with it like that. It was great.
Right. And you could tell they had a lot of creative control over it, and like the dance numbers are always so crazy. Like when they're in church and Big Boy walks out the bow tie pimp, I'm like, oh, like what a moment, son. Like it's just like
And the
there's one
actual
moment.
song Church. That's the one. I think that's the one dance routine that stands out in my head. Because I'm like, you listen to the song and then you listen to the breakdown on the film, and then that kind of takes over. It's kind of like them kind of hyping each other up, and you see Big Boy kind of running from you know, the bootleggers and everything. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm when they're driving the car and then he gets shot, and he does a little thing where like one of my favorite shots in the whole movie is the bit where he gets I think Terrence Howard shooting at him, and like the camera goes from like the hole in the Bible, and it just like kind of comes out and it's like looking at him as like Big Boy is like flying through the door. Amazing. Like they really pulled out all the stops to make that shit look as cool as they possibly could have, and like it's man, Idlewild is such a good movie. but
it's a beautifully shot movie. Like, you know, we usually talk about, and this is something that I learned when I took my 1 or 2 film classes in college. So I'm by no means a film scholar, but I think the thing is just so fascinating is, you know, a lot of folks think about film, and I'm like, we really underappreciate the folks who do the cinematography. You know what I'm saying? Like the way that it's actually laid out. You know what I mean? We have all these conversations about Idlewild, and we think about OutKast, Cicely Tyson. You know what I'm saying? Macy Gray,
Ving Rhames, yeah.
Ving Rhames. I mean, like Faison Love. Like you have some heavy hitters. You know what I mean? And even if they're, you know, But then it's like, Brian Barber, the way it was laid out, Brian Barber did that shit. Like, it was just like beautiful to watch and look at and hear. Like, this, the acoustics and the sonic elements of the movie are so good.
Yeah, and like, and like another thing I think is really underappreciated is the fact that like a lot of people don't know how to like shoot black skin, and that's like and that's like a problem a lot of people had, especially like around like really throughout all of film history. But like it had kind of started to. I don't want to say like it had started to be corrected, but like Idlewild was one of the first times I remember like watching a movie and being like, wow, like I can like actually like it's really well lit, and I can like actually like because like you'll look at old photographs of like black people and they'll just look like blurs, you know. And like here it was just like the light composition and like the way they aim the cameras, it's like I can actually like see them, and it doesn't and like it doesn't look like they just like slathered them in a whole bunch of like makeup, you know. Like it I appreciated that a lot. I don't know.
I'm not feel you on that, because I mean, like, it makes me think about Julie Dash and Daughters of the Dust, right? And you know, for the folks who haven't watched it, I mean, like, it's really a great film about Gullah folks who are coming to the mainland, right? And just the way that it's shot, you know what I'm saying? It's you see, like you were saying, like you see the beauty of different skin tones. I mean, like Julie Dash in one of her interviews was like, I intentionally, you know, bought the most expensive film stock to make sure that I showed these people for who they are, like the beauty of these folks, right? And then, you know, Idlewild, I want to say is right before the blow up of Ava DuVernay, you know what I'm saying? Because Ava DuVernay does the same thing, like the way that she makes sure that her Black characters are seen for the beauty of their skin and just the richness. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, the way that Ava's film is so rich looking, you know what I'm saying? And it's not necessarily film stock, because you know it's digital, you know what I mean? But just that attention and paying that type of, yeah, I feel that. I'm like, and I feel like I get a lot of that in Idlewild. I think that's an underappreciated element of it, is being able to see the totality of these folks, you know what I'm saying? And being able to see, you know, how beautiful Black folks are. Like, we fine down here. You know what I'm saying?
Right, son.
Down here. Let me right. So I just thought that was, I think I agree. I mean, I don't think, like, I know I agree with you on that, is that, you know, the attention to detail in what comes on screen is so important. And for directors and folks to pay attention to that is, you know, that's always a good sign, right? Like, I mean, like Ryan Coogler comes to mind for that too. You know what I'm saying?
And so does Issa Rae too, and Barry Jenkins.
Issa Rae, yes, Moonlight. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, like, not even just the story, just the way that it's shot. Like, the first time I saw Moonlight, I was on a flight the first time I watched it, and I was like,
damn,
I should have watched this shit big screen. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, Lord, it was beautiful. It was, yeah. So I'm with you. I'm sorry. I just
no. It's cool.
Like, I went on a tangent a little bit.
No, it's all good. That's what we're here to do. Yeah, like the first time I saw Moonlight, I think was in a theater. Yeah. No, I screened it at a festival, like right when it came out, and it was just like and
gorgeous.
Watching it now, it's watching it now, like even on like a really nice TV, like that's the kind of movie that you could like it would help to watch it in a theater, but like if you're watching it on like a big screen with like a nice picture, it's gonna look amazing. Like
amazing.
And like there's a handful of scenes that come to mind, but like there's like one of like little Chiron in the water that always gets me. It looks beautiful. One of the last scene where Chiron and Kevin are like looking at each other in the kitchen, and like there's just this like this is just this unsaid longing between the two of them, and like fucking Chiron just goes like, "You're the only man who ever touched me." And I was like, son. I was like, son.
I was like, I wasn't ready for that. Like, I was like, the only one. Oh, honey. Like,
he broke down, and I was just like, and like it looked beautiful. Like you could see like his gold fronts. Like the whole time, I was like, oh, like they just. It to me personally, it really might be a perfect movie. I was just talking to my boy Caleb about this on the podcast last week, so I'm happy we're talking about it again. It's just I can't say enough good things about Moonlight.
that thing is beautiful. That thing is beautiful.
God, but to kind of or to go back a little bit further, to kind of tie it in with Chronicling Stankonia,
Yeah.
like so like as you begin to develop your musical tastes and like your film tastes, like when did you decide that you wanted to write about and teach about the culture of Southern hip hop and just like and really just the South in general? Because yeah,
So the first time I taught anything Southern hip hop was 2013. It was a unit in my pop culture class at Kennesaw State. This is when I was adjuncting. I wasn't, where I am now. Uh,
right,
but it was an American pop culture class just on hip hop in general. And I was like, I want to do a section on OutKast in Southern hip hop. So there was that. And it was just a lot of fun, you know what I'm saying? And being able to, talk to students, because Kennesaw 30 minutes north of Atlanta on a good day. Um, so as somebody who grew up listening to Southern hip hop, you know what I'm saying, and having students who grew up listening to Southern hip hop, not the same Southern hip hop, but I mean, like, there was definitely a connection there.
right,
Students were more invested, you know what I'm saying. So by the time that I actually was working full time in Savannah, my chair at the time was like, is there a class that you want to teach in special topics? And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to teach a class on OutKast, because I was still writing Chronicling Stankonia at the time. And one of the secret power moves for a lot of academics like myself is you teach what you're writing to stay on top of your game. So I was like, let me just teach this OutKast class, and folks were really excited about it. And then it went viral, which I was not ready for. And I've been teaching it permanently since like 2017.
wow,
Every time I'll be like, if I'm teaching, you know what I'm saying, at least at Kennesaw, I teach at the OutKast class every spring semester. And pre-Pangea, we would watch Idlewild in class and talk about it. But it was the parallelogram outside, so I wasn't able to really engage students the way that I wanted to, right? But the next time I do teach the class, Idlewild is right back up there. But I mean, like, it was an ability for students to see, that OutKast wasn't just rap, like they continuously evolved. And believed in their craft enough and believed in their sound and brand enough that they were like, we can carry a whole movie, and they did.
right, and like and like you've already and like you mentioned a couple of times that you had been working on the idea for Chronicling Stankonia for a while. So like when did that first start? Like when did you think like I want and you're like, of course, like for anyone listening, like this book is about so much more than just OutKast. Like OutKast is kind of like it's like the anchor, but it just like Gina goes through it just like explains how she just like really gets at the root of what Southern culture is to her, and just anyway, I'm gushing. Tell me about when the
Thank you.
idea for the book came.
So in 2014, I did a series of conversations called Outcasted Conversations. They're still on YouTube if you want to check them out. And I was talking to other academics and journalists, and I got a couple of really cool interviews in there. Like I interviewed Mr. DJ, who was OutKast official DJ and also their production partner for Earth Tone 3. And then DJ Jelly, who literally broke elevators. I think it was like over Memorial Day weekend.
Oh wow, that's spooky.
Yeah, and was like and LaFace at the time, they didn't want elevators to be the lead single for that, but they kind of went behind LaFace's back and was like, yo, let's play this. And folks lost their, I mean, like the rest is history, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So being able to talk to folks about OutKast's influence, you know what I'm saying? To talk, I mean, like to do like what we're doing now is like, fan out, right? We're like, yeah, this is, but I mean, like when I really started thinking about the type of interviews that I was doing, it was pointing to this need to have a deeper conversation. OutKast is significant, not only just to hip hop, but to the South. You know what I'm saying? They made so much room for us to experiment in what it means to be young and Southern and Black and creative. You know what I'm saying? So it was 2014 after I ended the series. Well, I didn't need the series, but it was the season. I thought it was only gonna be like, no more than like 10 interviews on Google Hangout, and I would very lightly edit it and then put it on my little YouTube channel. Well, it ended up being 40 episodes. It was a long ass season.
Wow.
It was a lot of work. And the UNC Press, the University of North Carolina Press, reached out and was like, hey, what are you working on? And I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about this book on OutKast. And they were like, oh, we want to hear about it. So I like pitched my book to UNC Press, and they gave me a contract for it in 2015. And the next year I was at Harvard as a NAS fellow working on the book. So yeah, it's 6 years. I've been working on this thing for 6 years, and it's just coming out now. And I'm just so glad it's out.
Yeah,
I'm so glad
6
it's out.
6 years is a long ass time to like put anything
Yeah.
together, but like especially a book. And like I can tell that you put a lot of thought and care into just how you like brought like it, because like this isn't even, because like this is like really, it's lofty shit you're talking about. Like you're not just talking about like the group's impact on you as a person, like you're talking about its impact on like an entire culture, and like
Yeah.
how it's informed, you know, like that shit takes time. It's you know, you can't just bang that out in 6 months, you know, like at least not well,
Yeah, I
like
mean, I didn't want nobody coming for me. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the one
right,
thing that I kept having in the front of my head was like, you know, I have friends who aren't academics who love OutKast that I want them to read this book, make it readable. You know what I'm saying? I wanted them to read it. And kind of just see like this is like a love note. You know what I mean? I mean, OutKast is such a significant part to how we understand the culture. And I was starting to see people were trying to take the South out of OutKast. And I'm like, no, 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 no. What we not gonna do. This
I
is
know
what we
that's
not
right.
gonna do. And I just wanted to kind of prove that. And as I was grappling with that, it made me kind of realize, like, yo, like, you know, they really were the blueprint. They were the blueprint. Not saying that they were the first, because they were not the first Southern artist group.
Right.
But they were the first to pay dues for the South in front of all the hip hop. You know what I mean?
Like,
That Source
yeah,
Awards moment is such a pivotal moment. It's the battling cry. You know what I mean? It's the rallying cry. It's like, oh, okay,
yeah.
we got something to say, bit, and we ain't looked back since. He said we got something to say, and we was like, shit, yeah, we got something to say, and been saying it in multiple ways and
Right.
multiple things. Yeah, man. So that was just, and then like, but the thing that trips me out is like, folks are like, well, what about all the other groups outside of OutKast? I'm like, that's somebody else's book. That ain't my book. And then, you know, I'm from Georgia. I'm from South Georgia.
Like,
Why wouldn't I write about the cast? You know what I'm saying? So, you know.
right. Nah, absolutely. And yeah, like I could tell like your personal connection to them like regardless of when it started, like it's like it's passionate, and and like it really comes through. And I want to there were actually a couple different parts of the like a couple smaller parts, and then one kind of big chunk that I
Yeah,
wanted to address
sure.
before we move on too much. So like one of the first things, so you mentioned AT aliens a little earlier in this episode, and um Two Dope Boys in a Cadillac was the first song from that album that I ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine, when I was a friend of mine in school, she like sent me the song, and she was like, "This is my favorite OutKast song," and I was like, "Oh, where?" So I listened to it, and like that was my intro. But like I heard that before Elevators, I heard that before any song. Like that was my one where I was like, this is fire. Like, and you mentioned in the book, you mentioned how you mentioned the concept, like you said before, with them renaming Atlanta Atlanta to Atlantis and moving it around, and then like the whole, like one thing that really blew my mind, like not really being like grown at that point, was like the fact they put out the comic in the CD, because I've
Yeah.
never seen that in person. Like that was
Really?
like no, I've never seen it in person. Like I've always wanted to, like since I heard about it, like you weren't the first person to put me onto it, but like I've just never seen it. So like hearing you tell me the story, like knowing the story behind it now, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, damn, I really like need to find this. So like for you, like what was it like, kind of digging through that album in particular? Because it feels like this and Aquemini were two albums that you focus on like really explicitly in this joint. So like what was it like kind of digging through AT aliens?
Um, so it depends on what day it is, which one is my favorite. Today is a pretty nice day, and I'm leaning towards AT aliens being my favorite for today.
Mm,
Yesterday it was Aquemini. But you know, those were my two for real introductions to OutKast. But also they were a big part of the soundtrack and me transitioning into being Southern. You know what I'm saying? So there's that
right.
aspect. So I'm like, there's a lot of sentimental value in that. But also, I mean, just the way that it it was presented. You know what I'm saying? I remember looking at the comic when I was younger, because you know what I'm saying, like, you know, CD books, you put the little, you know, you put the CD cover in the booklet, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of folks, that was part of they thing. So I would be nosy and kind of just flip through it, you know, be like, oh, this is cool. But you know, it's like, it's cool that OutKast was some nerds too at the same time. I was like, y'all, okay, so we're gonna do the comic book thing. That's check, right? Because I'm a comic book nerd too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I love it. Nobody believes when I tell them my favorite comic is ElfQuest by the pen. My favorite.
That's
my favorite
fire.
comic. Yeah, it's my favorite comic ever. But I mean, like, being able to see, like, they were able to translate, you know, their dopeness into various mediums, right? The idea to be able to be experimental, and then you get something like Aquemini, where they break all that shit apart. They're like, okay, y'all trying to get us to just hold fast to these basically these formulas of how you expect us to act as outcasts. And they were like, nah, we're gonna get rid of all of that and then start from scratch. So it's like we're ending in one era, so to speak, and then when we get to Stankonia, I mean, they completely started over, so to speak. So I just thought it was really cool to be able to document that. But I mean, like, I wasn't really able to put it into, you know, nice words for a book until after graduate school, because I mean, like, I've been listening to OutKast damn near my whole life, right? So it's like, it's not like I'm not familiar with it, but
Right.
and I was like, oh, I think I actually want to, you know, critically engage. I started reading it different. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, so I started with, you know, the things that stood out. So the comic book stood out for me. I was like, oh, and not just reading it because I thought it was cool, but actually looking at what they were actually saying. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, Big Boy said that one of his superpowers in the comic book was to turn into a Black Panther. I said,
Right.
oh, well, of course I'm gonna put him in conversation with T'Challa. But then, you know, graduate school training kicked in and was like, oh yeah, by the way, there's also the Lowndes County group for defense that had the Black Panther as the symbol. And folks like, oh, you trying to read too deep into it? I'm like, no, y'all don't give them enough credit. They had to do a lot of reading for a lot of this shit to make sense. They were talking to somebody, you know what I'm saying? They were listening to something, you know what I'm saying? So just being able to theorize, right? I think that's one of my favorite things about being a literature and culture scholar is I get to just theorize. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, I have to make sure the facts are accurate, but I mean, like, what I do with those facts, I get to play around with a little bit. So I'm like, you know, I did.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the best. Like, you know, like, it's those little details that make something like this so readable, you know, like, you know, like, people are coming for the facts, obviously, but like, you putting your perspective in there, like there was a section in the Aquemini section of the book where you kind of like break down the meaning of like heroes at the end of the first verse of the title track, and that was one of my favorite moments in the entire book, because it just opened my mind to like how that song operates. So yeah, like, talk to me about that song and kind of like how you broke down that entire thing, because it was really something.
I mean, I was thinking about, you know, what I thought the overall theme of the album was, which is kind of like, it was almost like a memoir. You know what I'm saying? It was like, we've made it. This is what it looks like. This is how we made it. Y'all expect us to do these particular things. But I mean, like, you know, when they say when the heroes eventually die, I'm like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Because in the South, we hold on so tight to, you know, our legacies and our past. You know what I'm saying? And the civil rights movement is such a huge part of that. That we don't easily give up the MLKs and, you know, the Ambassador Youngs and the John Lewises. You know what I'm saying? If they're not here physically, then their legacy is definitely still a part of that. And OutKast asked questions that a lot of us younger Southerners were asking, like, well, when do we let go? Right? If we let go, how does that make room for us to actually ask questions about how those type of legacies are impacting our now experiences? Like, we can't, you know, I remember Andre saying something about being wary of being nostalgic. You know what I'm saying? And if the South is nothing else, we are headquarters for nostalgia. You know, depending on who you're talking to, right?
Right.
So I mean, like, you know, being brave enough to be like, you know, the heroes eventually die, right? Is giving themselves permission to move on, move forward. And I feel like a lot of civil rights leaders, that's what they want us to do, is to move forward. And sometimes moving forward means that you have to let go of the past. You know what I'm saying? So Yeah, just being able to connect those things together. I was trying to make sure, like I feel like that OutKast chapter was the hardest chapter for me to write. Outside of me writing about my dad's death in chapter 4.
Right.
But it was hard for me to write because I didn't want to redo the wagon, so to speak. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's so many amazing journalists who have written extensively about OutKast, from David Dennis to Charlie Braxton to Joycelyn Wilson, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that work had already been done about reviewing the album. Like my anxiety was that it would just read like, you know, this was in this album and this was in that album. So being able to connect the dots in terms of making sure I showed how they were evolving this idea of Black Southernness. Yeah, maybe you want to throw my computer a couple times. You know what I'm saying? So it brings me great joy to hear you say that it actually makes sense and it doesn't read like just a extended album review. Like I really wanted to grapple with what these albums were doing. And even going back and looking at it, and I think this is just a writer thing. You know what I'm saying? I know you feel me on this. It's like you read some shit you put out there and you read it and you're like, you know what? I should have wrote about that, or I should have extended this, and this. So it's a dangerous road to go down. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's. I think that revision thing is really, really important. So, but being able to revisit these things that I still love, like I still love listening to OutKast. Like that hasn't gone anywhere, thank God. You know what I'm saying? Some folks write about their favorite group, but they never want to hear them again. You know what I'm saying? I'm not in that boat. So but being able to listen, and even now when I listen, I'm like, I should have wrote about that. I should have wrote about that. So it's constantly in your own head. You know what I'm saying?
It's like Fonte said, like, you know, like people see you and put you among the greats, but I look back and all I see is mistakes. Like that's the realest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Like, it's like even the greats like Toni Morrison. Like I was watching a Toni Morrison interview and the guy was asking her about the bluest eye and she was like, yep, that's a mistake. And he's like, what there? And she's like, I could have done that better. I mean, like I'm the same way. I'm trying to work on like celebrating the wins, but at the same time, I'm like, but do you see this in the win? Like this could be sharper. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, yeah, it's a constant struggle. You know, as a fellow writer, I know you feel me on this. It's like, damn it.
Like it's. Like it's healthy to have a little bit of that, but like it's like but only a little. Like if it gets to be too much, then it just turns into self-sabotage, and that and like that's never good. Like like reading the Zora Neale Hurston book that you recommended I buy in Tulsa, and just like seeing how she managed to tie all these or like not tie everything together because they're all like different stories, but like there was one that really stuck. Like there were two that stuck out to me. There was one about the woman who was living with her husband and then she let him get bit by the snake.
Yeah.
And then he's just like out in the yard like dying from venom and she's
like, let me do this laundry.
Like she like just the way that she kind of like just like seeing how she's able to bring like real life in, like just like have life leap off the page. And then that little like folk tale she told a little later on where it was something about like the river and the stars and I can't, I'm blanking on it, but like seeing her manage to like have these physical things leap off the page the way she did. And then imagining that she would probably, like, if she were alive today, she'd be looking through that book and be like, nah, I could have done that better. It's just like, damn, like, really? Like, of course, we're going to look at someone whose work we think is amazing and just be, and see, and not see nothing but greatness, but like really want to amplify that. But, you know, it's like you said, you just get in your own head and it's, you know, like that's just the eternal struggle of being a creative, whether you're a writer or a musician or a film director. Like, that's just, like that's the price of admission, mind you. Like that's just it.
I mean, that's it. I mean, I don't know what else to say after that. That's it. Yeah.
Man. And kind of going back to this whole idea of heroes and like redefining and recontextualizing things. Another one of my favorite chapters in the book is the section where you talk about film and hip hop and slavery media. Like just like the way, because I remember when I first saw Django and I felt like anachronism wasn't new to me at that point, but like especially when it comes to somebody like Quentin Tarantino, but you know, like hearing him pick a Rick Ross song
Yeah.
to have hearing him pick The Devil Is a Lie specifically to have Django ride out to is like, because like I think that might have been like the first time he had ever chosen like a modern, like at that time, a modern rap song for a movie. Like because like he doesn't he usually goes with like older like more like rock and jazz
Yeah,
oriented
he
stuff, and
follows
then
the
he was
black
just like
exploitation thing because he said
right
that's such a huge influence on him. But yeah,
and and
mhm.
yeah, and then he was just like boom Ross, and I was like whoa, like like what about that, like yeah, like what about that dichotomy, what about that anachronism was so interesting to you that you decided to dedicate an entire chapter of the book to it?
Because usually when you think about Tarantino, you think about the exaggerated violence, right? Like it's it's not a Tarantino film unless somebody's getting his head cut off or split open and you see
Right.
ups and gobs of blood. You know what I'm saying? And I was kind of expecting that going in, right? And when in that particular scene, I mean, if you ain't seen Django by now, you just out of luck. So in the
Come
particular
on.
thing, you know what I'm saying? You have this runaway, you have a runaway slave who was a Mandingo fighter, so to speak, and he said he was just tired of fighting. And Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't know, I felt he played that role a little too well.
Mm.
And was like, oh, you don't have to fight no more. And then the camera pans out and you hear this man being shredded to death by dogs. You know what I'm saying? Which fits the bill with how you would think a Tarantino film. You thought you would see that shit on screen and be like, oh shit, right?
Yeah.
But the oh shit factor happens because I didn't see it on screen. All I did was hear it, which fucked with my mind even worse than if I actually saw it, because you hear this man being torn to dogs, you hear the snarling dogs, you hear the tearing of the flesh, you hear the slave patrollers are laughing, and it sounds like they're getting off a little bit. Like, I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
You're just like, what? And then it's like you also hear Ross's 100 Black Coffins. And you're like, what? Wait a minute. Like it was almost like it was a palate cleanser, but it was also like it was a reminder, like, oh, okay, this is still a made up thing. But I mean, like, but there was that very real possibility that this happened to somebody, that somebody has been torn apart by dogs because they were running away. You know what I'm saying? So it was. I mean, like, it made me think about it, and then I also think about, like, when I'm starting to call the Misha Green effect, which is her taking contemporary sounds, music, and using it in historical pieces. It throws you off, right? But it also, for me, it made me pay a little bit more attention on why this is such a big deal. Before Lovecraft Country, she was doing that in Underground.
Yeah, right. Which you also mentioned in the book.
Yeah, like the very first thing that you hear, like, ever on the series is Kanye West Black Skinhead. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, you see Aldous Hodge's character running through the brush and you know what I'm saying? But the part that's most powerful about that scene is when he can't breathe for himself. He's literally like trying to breathe into his shirt so that you don't hear him breathing. You hear Kanye breathing in the back. And I'm like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't have any footage of that. Like, we don't have any footage of this is somebody running away. We didn't know what it sounded like. You know what I'm saying? So it was really a powerful intervention to blend, visual and sonic, in unique and different ways. Like, it messed with me the first time I saw it. I was like, how the hell we gonna use Kanye to talk about a runaway slave? Like, okay. But then when I actually sat with it, I was like, damn, okay, I can see this. And then, it was all the things. Like, it was, and then to see her, I'll never listen to Cardi B the same again after Lovecraft Country.
Oh man, yeah, that was. I'm not gonna lie. That was one bit where I was like, all right, this is a little too on the nose. Like, it didn't.
So I'm not gonna say what happened. I'm not gonna say where she uses it, but I'll never hear Cardi B. I'll never listen to it the same again. Like, I was like, what?
Them shits are bloody shoes for real. Like, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, all I'm saying. I was like, oh shit. But yeah, so
I was, because like I remember when I saw that episode of Lovecraft Country, and I was like there were a few moments in Lovecraft Country, because like before I even get to that, music supervision is another extremely underrated aspect of any like film or TV show making process. Like, having people there to know what music to use, like already recorded music is like, that's such a skill to have, because like it really
Yeah.
brings you into the atmosphere, and like it sets the mood, you know. So
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
but like that was one moment where I was like, this is just too on the nose, like it's too it was like it jumped the gun from like terrifying to just like goofy, and like I was like, this is just like, I felt bad saying that too, because I love Bodak Yellow, but I was like, this is just kind of goofy, like.
But I feel like that was on purpose. Like I feel like it was. I mean, like
Yeah.
you're seeing this very violent scene happen, but then you're hearing like you're like, wait a minute. I mean, like it's almost like it's like that reminder. You know what I'm saying? That kind
Yeah.
of takes away from the terror of it.
So just because I'm thinking about it right now, like Southern hip hop and film have a really interesting history together
Mhm,
outside of all of this.
mhm.
How do you think the more, like you look at things like you look at more like glossy portrayals, like something like Hustle and Flow or ATL or Idlewild, like how do you think the more glossy portrayals of something like that compared to more like the more like earlier like grassroots showings, like things like, like stuff like Master P was doing with No Limit Films, and like
Are
Birdman's
you
like
talking about I
Baller
got the
Blockage, like.
hookup? How is advanced as I got the hookup? Which is still like one of my favorite Master P songs ever. I love that damn song. Uh,
Wow.
I mean, I am who I am. You know what I'm saying? There's that. But yeah, I mean, like the budget has changed. You know, Master P was definitely all about keep it in house. You know what I'm saying? Like, we put the money into it, we get to keep the money that comes out of it, type thing, right? It was a business thing. But yeah, I mean, like as folks kind of realize the South and hip hop is where it's at. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, okay, so this isn't just a flash in the pan. Like these folks are going to be around for a while. You know what I mean? Being able to put that on film introduced larger audiences to what those aspects of Southernness look like as they related to hip hop. But I also think, going from a Hustle and Flow to an ATL, you know what I'm saying, shows that everybody's not the same. Like the hip hop doesn't manifest in the same way depending on where you are. So I think that kind of re-emphasizes that thing, because you have you have ATL come out, right? And you have Big Boy, like this is one of my favorite roles Big Boy has ever, like he played the hell out of this Trap Boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It hit me in my face, my own goddamn money. So disrespectful.
Right.
Right. And then like now on Twitter, everybody's using the
I know.
one clip. I know, I think it is.
Yeah, like iconic, classic. Like.
Right. So I mean, like there's that aspect of it, but then also Big Boy is playing like this, there's more of a boutique piece, or more of a historical piece where you're remixing this idea of the Great Depression and what that looks like using hip hop, right? So I just think that it's such a rich avenue to be able to kind of see how hip hop manifests in these different parts of the South, and that unifying thread is the music, it's the culture, it's the way that we listen to the music, it's the way that we engage on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? And being able to go from there, and it just really kind of opens up some of these other films that are coming out that might not necessarily be at the top of the theater house, so to speak, but it still speaks to these experiences, and film is a way to share that with folks who might not be as familiar with the culture itself.
Right. And like, and like, especially considering somebody like a Master P again, who like really like established such a foundation and like really turned No Limit into like every, like there was like No Limit Records, No Limit Films, like he really like did all of that himself, like he built that from the mud, and like literally, like people say that, but like he really did that. So I just think that's important to note, because like Southern hip hop and film has such a rich history that I feel like people don't talk about. And like you look at like going from like Master P to 3-6 winning the Oscar for It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp, and like how
Beating
big
out
of a
Dolly
moment,
Parton.
like beating out Dolly Parton, son. Like that was such a moment. So yeah, yeah, like that's interesting to me, and like reading the book has kind of made me think about that a little more, especially like I just recently watched Hustle and Flow again, and it didn't age as well as I thought it might have, but like I just it just made me appreciate the general lineage more. So yeah, thank you for that. Just a general. And then my very last question for you, like you just said earlier that you don't want to be that you don't necessarily see yourself as a Southern hip hop historian, but like as a scholar and like someone who's, you know, like a child of the South and someone who kind of like represents it on a scholarly level. And you know, as a Southern hip hop fan, like forget the scholar, like that's where it starts, like as a
Yeah,
fan.
okay.
Like so do you feel like, how would you say the South's role in hip hop in general has changed or like mutated in the nearly 30 years since OutKast put out Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music?
Um, I would say that we're still proving that the South still got something to say. It's just changing a little bit. We're in the digital South, I think. You know, the role of social media and technology has really drastically shifted what we think Southernness is and what it's not. Which I feel like is part of that legacy that OutKast has helped to establish. You know, and the other thing I think that's important too is that I feel like we're doing a little bit of backwards of reclamation, so to speak. And what I mean by that is, you know, being in the academy, we're hella slow. You know what I'm saying? You know, hip hop has been around for 50 years, but it's been studied in the academy for like 30. You know what I mean? And my book is one of the first ones to do Southern hip hop. So you see, we're kind of still playing catch up. So I think we're in a really exciting moment where you know, I'm super excited that Southerners are documenting Southern hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not knocking folks who like Southern hip hop who's not from here, but it hits different. You know what I'm saying? It hits different when the folks who came up in the culture or are actively engaged in the culture speak to the culture. You know what I'm saying? And I also think it further proves that hip hop's not monolithic. The way that it manifests in the Northeast is different than it manifests in the South, on the West Coast is different in the South or the Midwest. And I feel like we're at a moment now where we're putting all of those things together so that we can have a more lush conversation and also make sure that the story is told right. Like I feel like as I get older, you know, as I get an older fan, you know, as an older fan, you know what I'm saying? I feel like, you know, I'm not the intended audience for a lot of these younger artists. And I'm not mad at that. You know what I'm saying? I know my truth. You know what I'm saying? But I do feel like I'm in that point of my career and also just as a fan that I'm like, okay, now it's time to actually make sure these stories don't get lost. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like film and journalists like yourself and, you know, Yo and Christina, you know what I'm saying?
Shout out to Yo and Christina for real.
Yeah, they're my peoples, right? That there is an intentional positioning, so to speak, that, you know, you want these folks who are actually out here in the culture to record it.
Yeah.
Right. Because, you know, you don't want it to just be a fad. Like that's one of the things that I worry about as a scholar is that there are a lot of academics who see these, you know, the interest in hip hop, right, and don't have any investment in it. So they're just
context,
like,
even
or context, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, I like that one song that I heard 10 years ago, so let me make a class around it. And you're like what? It's so much bigger than that. So yeah, I feel like, you know, as of right now, we're playing reclamation and we're building up the archive. Like I feel like that's what I want to leave y'all with, is that we need to continue to build up the archive for the South from a Southern perspective. Because if that gets lost, you know what I mean, so much else will get lost in translation as well.
Totally. Yeah. Like I'm really glad you brought that up. Just that whole aspect of just like people from the area doing that work, like regardless of what that area is, but especially for the South, like you said, it just hits different. Like you could tell, like there's just like details, like not every writer is like a Jeff Weiss, because like Jeff Weiss is somebody who can like it's like he's lived everywhere. Like he like writes about everywhere where like to the point where you feel like he's from there. Like he writes about Chicago the way he writes about, Georgia the way he writes about Los Angeles where he's from, but like not everyone's like that, and not everyone should be like that, like that's just really important for sure. Gina, yo, I'm sorry we got to cut this short, but thank you so much for even taking the time.
This was fun.
Oh man, this was so much fun, and like especially since it's been a year and shit, like since Tulsa, like wow, like thank you for everything you do. And I just feel really good to like be your friend at this point, and just like like it's an honor to talk to someone who's like
likewise. I want to meet your dad though. Like I want to kick it with your dad one time. Like I just want to kick it and just hear him talk the good shit about music. He seems so dope.
I won't make that happen soon. I promise.
I love it.
Thanks for listening. Shout out to y'all for making it this far. And shout out to all the black people listening too, because y'all really impeccable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell a friend to come through next time. 1.